Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Geeky Geezers and the Geezette. I'm sorry, I had to throw that. Now, Netter's joining us for our good old days tonight, so I just
Yes.
threw that in there. But yeah, here I'm your host, Aged Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli, and special guest Netter of Netters Network. You can catch her on Thursday on her channel for Thursday Things. She has wonderful guests on each week, so I definitely recommend checking that out.
He only says that because he was a guest one time.
I know I'll have to be one again soon. Actually, that
Yeah.
should be if you have any. But yeah, Boosh McFadden. Actually, let's see who's in the chat. How was your how was the rest of your weekend? We talked. We were almost on your stream Friday. We did the
Yep.
rewatch of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Which, of course, was awesome. And then Saturday, Netter had some tests. And
Right.
then we had the rewatch of
Crudes.
The Croods, which
How
was
is that?
really, really good. Everybody who saw it that hadn't seen it before really, really liked it. I'd actually forgotten how much I enjoyed it.
I'm telling you, some of these animated movies are better than a lot of the bigger Hollywood productions.
Well, and this
you know?
this was a DreamWorks, right?
Yeah,
And
they do good
and I
stuff
was
usually.
and I was saying, it's this was animation, the kind of enjoyment you used to get out of Disney films
Yeah.
that you don't anymore, you know.
Like I enjoyed the Puss in Boots movie they did recently.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, and sad about Marty Krofft. We might cover that next week since we didn't really have time to prep for a in remembrance tonight. But
Yeah,
there'll be a lot
I mean
to talk about
that's
him.
that's a lot for me to get into.
So
My
we'll
whole
save for next week.
childhood is tied up with Sid and Marty Krofft, Land of the Lost, and Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, and H.R. Puff and stuff, and all
That's
of
the
it.
good old days waiting to happen. So
Yeah.
we'll do that next week. Yeah, definitely. Would have sent them as you're usually up on the net nature. Well, the problem was a Big Al. We lost some of our news stories tonight because we was acting a little weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Technical, but we recovered a lot of them. But
I don't know. To
said,
be honest with you, we got so much. It's probably best that we.
I don't even remember what we said, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's best
because we even carved a couple out that I just didn't want to talk about.
It's Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
I'm tired. We have enough to cover the 2 hours, and I think that's good. Plus, Troy will be going on a couple of rants tonight, I'm sure. So we'll be, and maybe I will too. We have Ridley Scott and talk about later, which.
Yeah.
Is Ridley Scott a good director? Alien was good. Blade Runner was great. They're both great movies. And then I don't know. I remember his Robin Hood, which was
I
not as good.
Yeah. See, I think here's what happens.
Russell Crowe.
Pride goeth before a fall, right? I think that, and I see this in all the directors that we want to, put on these pedestals. They do great work when they're younger. They gain all of this notoriety and they let it go to their heads, and then they think they can do no wrong and their crap don't stink. And it's like, no. And I'm sorry. Look, everyone wants to do this with, even like, I'm going to say it, George Lucas, okay? George Lucas,
Yes.
he did great work when he was young. As he, got more and more full of himself, he got more and more self-indulgent. And I'm sorry, the prequels were not as good as the originals. And, I don't think bringing him back would save. I don't think anything can save Star Wars, but never mind that.
Bringing back someone didn't save Doctor Who, but anyway.
And what about
Yes.
what's
What?
his name? The one that was poo-pooing all over superhero films.
Scorsese?
Scorsese, who just came out and did another film right now, and people are giving it kind of mixed reviews. I haven't seen it, so I don't really know.
I haven't seen it yet either. I'd have to watch it.
But my guess is, it's I would not be surprised if it's the same thing. He's a little self-indulgent now, and it's like, I think you've lost your edge, pal. Maybe it's time to retire.
I heard people were. I heard problems about The Irishman. That was the only Scorsese movie in recent years that I heard was not up to snuff. I think there were complaints about de-aging on De Niro and Pacino in that because while they looked younger, their mannerisms were still that of older men. Do you understand how they moved and everything?
Sure.
So it didn't look right. And they said, in the past, you just would have cast a younger actor and then maybe had De Niro come in as the older character, or the older version of that same character, later in the movie. But,
Deleted Scene says, sorry guys, I am in the middle of cooking a late dinner listening in.
Okay.
Please make sure to hit the like and share the stream. Please make sure you are still subbed to the channel and to each other. No, that's fine. Deleted Scenes. We'll just dock.
You're allowed
pay,
to.
That's all.
You'll just what? Wait, sorry. What'd you
We'll
say?
just dock your pay. That's all.
We'll just dock your pay. You think you can eat? Oh, that was a wonderful line from one of my great episode of Batman the Animated Series, which didn't have a named villain in it. It had some guy that was kidnapping homeless people off the streets and making them work in a gold mine out in like Arizona somewhere. And like, there's a scene where like, the men have to eat, sir. And he says, I have to eat. They have to work.
Right.
That was the weird episode where I think Bruce Wayne went undercover to find out what was going on, and then he got clonked on the head, so he lost his memory. So he doesn't know who he is, and he's with these guys in this camp somewhere. And it was an interesting episode because even though he doesn't know who he is, underneath it, he's still Batman. You know what I mean? Like he still has a sense of like right and wrong, the right and wrong and all that. It was interesting. And they didn't know who he was either because of course he made himself look older. He put like he made himself look different because people forget Bruce Wayne is also a master of disguise.
Right.
Which doesn't get shown too often in the movies, unfortunately.
Well, and that's why the character of Matches Malone is so badly underused. That is something that could really be developed, and they don't.
There was a wonderful episode of the spoof series, but the comedy series, Batman the Brave and the Bold. That was the cartoon that was more like the Adam West 60 series, where it did all the weird stuff. There's an episode where I think something happens to him, and he actually takes on the persona of Matches Malone, and like thinks he is Matches Malone in one episode.
That's interesting. I
think the Birds of Prey, and they have to have the Birds of Prey come in and take him down. And it was
that is the kind of storyline, even in a serious story, I could see them doing. A whole situation where he's doing an undercover thing as Matches Malone, ends up being injured and losing his memory, and thinking this is who he is. And so, I mean, because think about it, people with dissociative identity disorder and whatnot, they're trying to remember. What do? They look at their wallet. They look at I guess my name is Malone. Okay, try to find someone who knows me. Who does he find? He finds out he's in the criminal underworld and all this kind of stuff. And it's like,
and he probably figured I know so much about how to be a criminal because, of course, it was bad.
Yeah, he's like, I don't feel real good about this, but I guess this is what I do.
This happened on an anime series I like, Lupin the Third, where the Inspector Zenigata is always chasing Lupin the Third, the world's greatest thief around the world. One episode, he loses his memory, and when he wakes up, I think some criminals find him, and then he helps them steal, and it turns out he's excellent at being a thief. Because, of course, he's a detective that has to go after the greatest thief, like a genius-level thief. So he's a brilliant thief in his own right. He didn't remember he was a detective trying to stop a thief, and that's what the whole episode was about. Funny stuff there, but I'm ignoring the chat. Hello, Lady Miss. Hello, D Pensec. Let me see who else is in the house here. Big Al, we said hi. Deleted Scenes, you're eating your dinner. Boosh McFadden, welcome. Joshua V, Chris P, welcome, Chris P.
Yep.
You know Chris P personally, don't you?
I know. I'm getting to know a lot of these people personally. I got to be honest with you.
Chris has been on Troy's channel before.
I see.
And he's been on my channel before in the chat.
We go way back. I don't see him as often as I wish I did. But thanks for being here, Chris P. You said Bruce McFadden, Jesse Guajardo. Welcome. You said David Pensack, right? Okay.
Miami Vice.
I did see Matanui. He was first. Absolutely.
Oh, that's funny. They did that on Miami Vice too. Sonny Crockett became his undercover persona. That's funny.
I'm sure it's a common trope. Yeah. I'm just saying that if it's a well established sort of alias, that makes for a great story. And unfortunately, I don't feel like they've done that enough with Matches Malone, even in the comics, which is really the only place you see it. I think they mentioned it in the cartoons, but Yeah, it's not as big a thing as it probably should be. But and deleted scenes. No, I was just kidding, of course. By the way, if you're still listening, I hope you enjoy your dinner. I hope you washed your hands before making dinner, because hygiene is very, very important.
Yes, it is.
Make sure you carry around the Purell with you, and
There's a reference.
You see how I'm pivoting that one?
Yes. Today's Good Old Days is the television series Monk, starring the great Tony Shalhoub. I believe it was on the USA Network for a while, right?
Yes, it was. 'Cause it's a jungle out there. Disorder and confusion everywhere. Yeah, that was, and that's another thing. It's a very self-referential kind of show, because the first season they had an instrumental opening. I can't remember. I think it was. I'm having a hard time remembering who the.
I think
Jeff Beal, I think, was the one who did the opening instrumental, and then what's his name? The singer who does "You Got a Friend in Me" from Toy Story. Randy Newman, yeah, did it. The second season onward, and the fans, including myself, were like, I like the original opening, And there was one episode where they actually, kind of in a self-referential kind of way, they were talking about, what was it? It was like a show within the show that somebody liked, and they were saying, oh, yeah, that's that show that had, a theme song that they changed in the second season. The fans just went crazy about it. And, of course, that's the big, I see what you guys did there kind of a thing. It's a comedy. It's a
mystery series, though.
It's a mystery comedy, little bit dramatic, bit, because the backstory, the overarching mystery of the whole show. Adrian Monk is this detective, and his wife gets killed.
Trudy.
His wife, Trudy, yeah. And it's, just in the same kind of vein as, The Prisoner and The One-Armed Man and the whole thing and blah, 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 blah. Trying to solve that mystery. This is what he's trying to solve throughout, this. But it is not the mainline story. This is his own side thing. As far as anyone else is concerned, it's a cold case. Meanwhile, he is working as a what do they call it when you don't
consultant.
He's a consultant for the police department.
Because when his wife died, he kind of lost it, and so he is no longer on the police force. And it's really kind of sad, because he can solve all these cases just by glancing at some evidence. He's like, oh, this is what happened, this is who did it, da da da. And he made a point of saying, I can solve every case but this one.
And then it's the one that he's so close to, and that's part of the reason, right? Because he's so close to it, he can't see it. The whole idea is that Monk he's a savant, but he's severely weighed down by OCD and phobias.
Right.
And that's partly how he grew up, and throughout the show, they have flashbacks to him as a kid with his brother and so forth, and how his mother taught him. Yes, exactly. And very dysfunctional. And then he meets Trudy, that brings him out of it. And for a little while he's with her, he's got a sense of normalcy in his life. When she dies, it all collapses for him. And he is worse than he was before. And the most severe, and they do it to I don't know, I guess these days it might be an insensitive taboo.
You're being ableist if you...
Yeah, exactly, and you're making fun of people with OCD and stuff. But they did take it to the extreme, and all of the tropes where he couldn't walk down the street without, he had to avoid stepping on cracks, and he'd have to touch this, and he'd have to touch it, which, of course, is this dichotomy that they even bring up in the show. It's like, well, wait a minute. you're a germaphobe that doesn't want to touch anything, but then you've got this OCD where you got to touch things all the time. He's like, yeah,
it's a blessing and a curse.
It's a curse. Yeah, exactly. You know? And
then he'll have situations like, because he doesn't like to touch things, like people want to shake his hand, and then he'll go to his assistant, who's his first assistant was also a nurse, and he would just go, wipe, give me a wipe, so he can wipe his hands because he's germaphobe. Well, then he'll be put in situations where, because he's a white guy, like he was shaking a black person's hand, and the person will look at him like what?
Why are you wiping your hand? Because I'm a black? No, because I'm a germaphobe.
Yeah. And then his nurse will have to explain.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's just he's a germaphobe and all this. It's he's not racist. It's nothing like that. It's just this is the way he is with everybody. And so just weird situations like that where it comes out totally misconstrued. It's like really hard for him to get out of himself. But there was like, I want to say it was in the first season, he was called onto the scene. I think it was one of the first cases. It's like he's like sitting in his old lieutenant's office, and he's looking through files, and Leland, who was his old boss, comes in, and he puts these folders aside and he goes, the sister did on this one, the butler did on this one, the mother did on this one. This one's not a murder. They just had a heart attack. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's great
he's
is
brilliant with the crime solving.
Absolutely.
And this happens like Hercule Poirot has his idiosyncrasies, right? But he was also brilliant at solving crime.
Yeah. And there's a certain formula to these. So about at the 2/3 mark of the show, something will happen, sometimes completely unrelated to his investigation, but it'll trigger something and he'll go, I just solved the case, and then you cut to commercial and then you come back and it's usually them, doing the whole Sherlock Holmes,
then there are
walks you through it and everything.
Where it's like, he'll say, he's the guy. It's like, how can he be the guy? He's in a hospital bed, in a coma, blah, 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 blah. In this particular one, the guy was like 300 pounds, like in a coma, in a hospital bed, hadn't moved in 6 months. He's like, but he's the guy. So how can he be the guy? And he actually managed to prove how he was the guy. Yeah,
that's usually sometimes he solves it early on, but he doesn't have the how of it, and then he has to figure it out. So,
well, one of the funniest ones was I don't remember what season it was, but his best friend is Leland, his old boss, and Leland's in Las Vegas. And he gets bombed out of his mind because this guy's celebrating something. And he manages to solve a murder while he's there, but he can't remember it. He calls up Monk in the middle of the night. He goes, I solved the case. I wanted to say that for years. I solved the case. And then when Monk shows up the next morning, he's like, I know I did something. I don't remember. So he's trying to retrace all the steps. And what it was is that there was like this rich guy and his wife always wore those really long scarves. I mean, they like dragged on the ground, and that was her signature. And there was something where his look-alike girlfriend switched places with the wife after they killed her, like strangled her with her scarf. Mm-hmm. And he figured out how that switch was done and how it was done, and actually came down to the earrings that the fake was wearing.
Yeah.
And it was just like this really, but they had to go through this entire retracing steps, and he would like go to this bar and goes, I think I remember being here. And they're like, hey, Leland, you come back to do more, da da da. He goes, no, I was here. You go like, yeah. And you talk about this case, and da da da. Okay, what did I say?
What did I say? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's funny.
So, yeah, let's back up. So, starring Tony Shalhoub.
Yep.
Right? You guys all know Tony Shalhoub, right? If you don't know him from Monk, you know him from Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest,
He's the engineer who's toped up through the whole thing, right? If you don't know him from that, you know him from Men in Black. He's the alien that gets his head shot off, and it starts growing back. And do you know how much that stings?
Yes, I remember that. The one who kind of you got kind of the rat teeth on his mouth, right? Like that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The teeth and the eyes, which are both artificial, but
Right.
that was the first role I had seen him in, so I did not realize that at the time.
He was on Wings.
He was on Wings,
yes.
and I had actually forgotten that. Yes.
Yes. What was his character on Wings? I don't want to say it's Angelo because that's what somebody called him by accident. Antonio, maybe that was his name on Wings. Yeah,
He played an Italian guy. That's all.
He played an Italian guy from Italy. Yeah, he had the accent and everything.
Yeah.
And even though he wasn't Italian, because actors can do that, right?
Yeah, Tony Shalhoub. I think somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's Armenian.
He might be. Yeah,
I think so.
Not positive, but yeah. Go ahead.
He was in one of my favorite X-Files episodes. Typically, a lot of the government conspiracy episodes were about UFO stuff, right?
Sure.
But they not always. And this was about a scientist who had been doing experiments with, I guess, black light, if that makes any sense. I'm probably not using the correct scientific term, but his shadow ended up becoming like a vortex that people would get sucked into and dissolve or something. And he's on the run and he has to stay in bright light. Otherwise, if his shadow comes out, people are in danger, and he's on the run. He doesn't know what to do. Trouble is, the bad government people know about him, and they want to use him for probably nefarious purposes. Do you understand? Or they want to.
Yeah.
So he's on the run, and so, and of course, Mulder and Scully get involved. But he's actually a sympathetic character. I felt sorry for him actually, because he's not doing this stuff on purpose. Though when he's cornered, he will let his shadow come out and dissolve anyone who's coming after him.
Self-defense. I mean, you do what you got to do.
It was a fascinating episode, and that was the episode where, well, you realize that Mulder's confidant wasn't such a good guy after all.
Shocker.
I'll put it to you this way: like you'll get the one guy in the government who and he's giving you tips or something and stuff that's happening, and like you're not sure about him. But then in this episode, he did something I considered very questionable and wrong. Do you understand? And it's
just remember what Reagan said.
Yes. What he said.
Scariest thing you could hear is someone coming to you and saying, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly how he put it, but it was basically that. So, yeah, Tony Shalhoub. Netter mentioned Leland Stottlemyre.
All right, 13 Ghosts. He was in that, I think. Yeah.
Played by Ted Levine, or is it Levine? I'm not sure. Who, if you don't know him as Leland Stottlemyre, you know him probably as Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, date me.
Oh no.
And what's funny is a buddy of mine, his wife would refuse to watch the show because she'd see him and she'd go, "Oh, I can't watch the show," and I'm like, I've seen Silence of the Lambs, and I just don't see Buffalo Bill when I saw Leland Stottlemyre because he got that big, mustache and everything. He's just a completely different character. It's like I don't even
can do. Sometimes they can completely change their appearance.
That's one of the great things about a good actor, Yeah. In fact, I always felt that that Ted Levine, Leland Stottlemyre, if he just played that role, he would have made a great Commissioner Gordon for Batman.
Yeah, probably.
To be honest with you.
And then, of course, there was Leland's sidekick, if you want to call him that.
Randy Disher of, what was it, the Randy Disher Project.
Yeah, he fancied himself a singer, an actor, and he was totally in love with Sharona, who was Monk's first assistant / nurse.
Well,
and the reason he had Sharona as his assistant / nurse is because of his severe OCD problems.
He literally couldn't take care of himself.
Yeah, so she kind of helped him do grocery shopping and make sure, that he took his vitamins and he had his hand wipes and all this, because he could not function in society without the buffer.
She was his emotional support person.
Yes.
But, yeah. And, again, another self-referential. There's no joke you could think of that they hadn't already thought of. Sharona goes out on a date with somebody who, makes a joke about my Sharona. She goes, "Oh, that's funny. I've never heard that before. Thank you."
Yeah, and then a couple seasons later, Sharona finally decided to quote unquote quit, and she moved, I forget to where, but I think she was initially going to be getting back with her ex-husband, and so of course Monk doesn't have an assistant, and he ends up hiring Natalie Teeger, who was a waitress in a restaurant, and her boss was a total jerk and ended up firing her, so he hired her.
Yeah. And what was great, I was like any fan. Oh, I don't like the change. Kind of ended up liking Natalie better than I liked Sharona, and I think a big part of that was Natalie, which she's not a nurse, so it's a very different kind of dynamic.
Right.
But also, she's got a daughter, and the interaction with the daughter was really good too. It brought in another great dynamic for.
Which she asked all
Sharona
kinds.
had Benji,
who didn't come up that much though.
Would the daughter ask all kinds of questions?
Yeah, and she had this child's aspect to it, right? So she was,
she would ask questions, she'd be curious and ask about different things, and her mother would be like, Julie, and Monk would be like, no, it's okay,
Yeah.
da 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 da. And it's like, and she's like, oh, okay, I get it, because she wanted to understand why he was the way he was.
But in a lot of ways, she ended up drawing Monk out a lot, just by being a child, and it was just a great dynamic,
There's one episode where she was in a school science fair, and she had a goldfish. Now, she told her goldfish that told her teacher that the goldfish was 10 years old, that her dad had given it to her before he went off to on military duty, and of course, the teacher's like, "That's impossible. Goldfish don't live that long." So of course, she comes home and she's all teary-eyed and saying, "Mom, she's saying that this can't be the same fish," and da da da. So Mom's pissed. Goes to school and says, "Look, I know goldfish don't live that long, but this is the last present she got from her dad.
Yeah.
Excuse me, before he died. Da da da. Just go along with it." And she scares the bejesus out of the teacher. He goes, "Okay, fine, but she can't win anything." She's like, "That's fine. Just let her participate in the science fair." So she is able to put her fish into the science fair, and something had happened in the side story is that she had bought a moon rock from a museum that actually was like a gem of some sort that was put in the box by some thieves to try and get out of the museum. So they put it into one of these mineral boxes, buy a mineral and
Sure.
Have your own thing. And she bought one because she thought it would be kind of cool for her.
But it was an actual valuable gem.
Yeah. Which these thieves had stolen and put into this box, put an X on the box so you know which one it was because they were just going to buy the box. Well, she bought the box before one of them could grab it to do it. So through this thing, they're trying to get this gem back. And at one point, the fish gets thrown out of its tank. Like the tank gets knocked over, the fish goes flying. And Monk, who's very germophobic, actually puts everything aside to get this fish and in his bare hands and get it into water so it won't die. Because it meant so much to Julie. So yeah, she was really bringing him out of himself.
And that was something he normally wouldn't do, but he overcame this thing just to...
No, just be like, and you could see he was struggling with it, going, and then he just kind of closed his eyes, scooped up the fish, and went running down the hall with it, like, need water, and then threw it back into the tank. It was just like, ah.
Yeah. Wipe.
Sorry, my earphones.
It's all right. It was a neat effect.
Obviously getting excited.
There seems to be a big tradition of savant detectives, though. Like a favorite show of mine was Wire in the Blood on, I don't know if you ever caught that. It was a British series. Ever hear of it?
Oh, no.
You'll like it if you ever decide to get around to watch it.
It's
Robson
called
Bean
Wire
was
in
in
the
it.
Blood?
Wire in the Blood.
Oh, now I gotta look that up.
It's a British mystery series, yes. But I'm trying to think what else.
Well, another one was Fringe. That one is a complete slacker who just happens to have an incredible talent for observation, and he plays it off as though he's a psychic.
You mean Psych?
That's what I said. What did I say?
I thought you said Fringe.
You said French, sweetie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Psych. Someone else mentioned Psych. I'm telling USA had a whole bunch of these shows.
There was actually a crossover between Psych
and Monk.
And Monk, yeah. Well, they were on the same network, so
it's like when they do a crossover on CBS.
However, back to Monk though, tough show to keep going because it kept changing production companies.
Right.
It was let's see, it was Universal Studios, then it was wait a minute. It started out with USA, then it moved to Universal. Now I think it's Paramount, because now it's going to be on the Paramount Network. Is that the one that's doing the movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, and then keeping it going with USA, NBC, Universal, you know, everyone had their hands in it, and they were just trying to keep the show going. It's amazing that we actually were able to get 8 seasons out of it and then wrap up. And I think a lot of you guys have heard me talk about this before. They wrapped up the mystery in a very unsatisfying way. I told you that the whole heart of this was the death of his wife, Trudy. That was the background mystery. When they finally solve it, there was no, oh, okay, this all makes sense now, taking from all the episodes that gave you actual clues about it. It doesn't really make any sense. It was just very clear. They were like, okay, let's just get an end to this. Admittedly, the last episode has some character resolution relating to his wife and his history with his wife and so on and so forth in a very, very sweet way. So, you know, from a fan point of view, when you care about these characters, you're like, okay, for the sake of Monk, I'm good with the closure. But that mystery just didn't really, you know.
A lot of shows do that. The resolution on Mulder's sister's alien abduction was dumb on the X-Files too. When they finally resolved that was dumb.
Yeah.
If
you're going to do something that's that long of an arc, maybe plan it out, maybe think it through. I mean, I guess maybe this is just too much to expect, but I expect that if you're going to do a long-term thing, you do like J. Michael Straczynski did with Babylon 5. You have it planned out beginning to end. And yeah, maybe you got to take some detours. Maybe you got to, you know, juggle it a little bit, you know, swap out characters or something. But you got the basic plan going, right? Mm-hmm. They should have had the whole mystery figured out. And they should have had key, you know, clues to drop each season leading up to the last episode. Yeah. I don't feel like they did that. 125 episode over 8 seasons, though.
That's a lot of that's a lot of.
And we have every single one of them sitting on our shelf, on the DVD shelf. Not only that, but they are separated from all the other movies by wipes on either side. Little packets of wipes. I kid you not.
No, that's clever because it's it's your testament to Monk, right?
And what made me think to do that? Well, the first season comes shrink wrapped with a little thing of wipes in there, and I'm like, funny. Oh, that's so funny. So yeah. Oh, it's a gel hand sanitizer, and I'm like, how cool would it be? Again, we had hand wipes. I'm like, I put one in front, one in back. I said, there we go. This will protect them from the other ones. And my wife's like, seriously? But she kind of warmed to it pretty quick.
It's funny that they did that for the release. See, that just shows whoever's putting out the DVD, they know the fans are going to get a kick out of that when they would do stuff like that. Yeah, I kind of wish we had more of that these days. But I'm trying to think that we will have some Monk news later tonight. We'll end the stream with it. We're not going to say what it is, but
should we get spicy now? Should we get into some potentially political briars here?
Yes. I don't know if this is where you'd like to leave, Netter, but thank you for stopping by.
Oh, thank you for having me.
certainly.
See, because I knew Netter was our subject matter expert. She loves that show.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see if she pop on. But it's I know it was a short notice thing. Thank you for popping on.
And of course, she'll always be here in the background anyway. So
yeah, if I'm just going to hang out in the green room. So
you hang out in the green room so you don't have the delay.
Exactly.
Also, so you don't have to get involved in this conversation.
There you go.
Maybe you do. Okay,
this is where it starts to get spicy. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
See you
Love you,
later.
Netter.
Bye-bye. All right, here we go. Inside Hollywood's divide over Israel. Oh my goodness, this is. Will America survive this decade? I was thinking. More importantly, will Hollywood survive this decade?
You know,
I'm
say
sorry.
is,
I'm just thinking of Hollywood's mind. It's more important than America.
This is my message to Hollywood. Okay, if the German with the bad mustache from the 1930s, who rounded up people and did bad things to them, if he's such a bad villain, maybe you don't take that side of this particular issue. Just saying.
Yes. I wanted to bring up a point too. They're very loose with that term, calling people that maybe are a little right of center of thinking and just throwing it at anyone. And now here they are. I don't know. They've snapped. But let's get into this. This is a long article. Feel free to interrupt me whenever you'd like, because it's going to go on for a bit. But I feel we should get through it because there's a lot of stuff here.
Yep.
A lot's been going on the past few weeks. Hollywood is divided over Israel. 4 days after the October 7th Hamas terror attacks in Israel, WME invited Steve Leader, the rabbi from Wilshire Boulevard Temple, to visit the agency's Beverly Hills headquarters. He came to provide comfort for employees reeling after the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Although the event was not mandatory and Leader's speech was considered secular, several staffers voiced complaints which made their way to WME co-chairman Richard Weitz and Christian Muirhead. Instead of caving, WME invited Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt to speak to the agency on November 1st. Greenblatt didn't mince words, according to those in attendance, calling out the Writers Guild of America for refusing to issue a statement after the Hamas attacks.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting that the Writers Guild of America did not issue a thing on these attacks. We'll get into that in a minute. Okay, across town, the agency's fiercest rival, CAA, was dealing with a crisis. Maha Dakil, one of its top agents, had ignited a firestorm with her Instagram post, including one that said, "What's more heartbreaking than witnessing genocide? Witnesses the denial that genocide is happening." She later apologized. In response, Dakil was relieved of her duties as co-chief the motion pictures department, though she was allowed to remain an agent. It didn't hurt that her most important client, Tom Cruise, made it known to CAA that he was backing her. Cruise met with Dakil at her CAA office on November 15th. A knowledgeable source says he took the rare step of going in person to show support for his embattled agent. But the Dakil issue didn't end there. A group of CAA assistants threatened to walk out over the agency's treatment of her, sources say. They believe she was being railroaded by management, but ultimately abandoned their threat. At the same time, some of the agents who complained internally about Dakil's post felt disillusioned, believing she should have been fired. Separately, CAA cut ties with a staffer and 2 clients over incendiary anti-Israel social media posts. I remember a while back, someone thinks that social media has destroyed more careers than created them. But anyway, similar instances of firing, finger-pointing, and feelings of betrayals are playing out across Hollywood as the industry wrestles with the raw emotions aroused by the eruption of violence in the Middle East. From power brokers to the rank and file, a growing number are incensed by the hostile rhetoric surrounding Israel and the lack of solidarity, even as some 240 hostages continue to be held by Hamas. Others feel a kinship with the Palestinian cause and believe Israel is the aggressor. The polarization is notable because the industry has largely presented a united front when it comes to politics, from its blanket opposition to former President Trump to its uniform support of reproductive rights. But when it comes to Israel, the cracks are showing. There's just no excuse for not condemning Hamas and demanding the release of the hostages. Hollywood was quick to declare Black Lives Matter, as they should, and Time's Up, as they should, and myriad other important causes. Greenbelt tells Variety. There's plenty of room for criticism of Israel or to voice concerns about the ongoing war in Gaza. That doesn't provide celebrities and industry reps with an open license to wage unfair accusations against Israel, such as accusing it of apartheid or genocide, or worse, to celebrate the actions of Hamas terrorists.
Okay, hold right there.
We can stop here, yes. Well, for now, we'll continue. Yeah.
One thing that I would point out, as they should. Should they, though? Should they? Here's my question. Going back to, and those of you that, if you didn't catch Deleted Scenes Unscripted before this, maybe go check that out later on, because, you don't have to see it live to hear what he had to say. But, maybe Hollywood doesn't need to weigh in on stuff that they have no business weighing in on. Ricky Gervais was right. You people don't know more than anyone else, and just because you have a megaphone doesn't mean you have a right to use it. Maybe leave it to people who know a little bit more about the subject. Okay?
Yeah.
And you give up the moral high ground when you start, going off half-cocked. Just saying.
Discretion is the better part of valor.
Yes.
That's as the expression sometimes says. But so I've had enough. Spyglass quietly dropped Melissa Barrera as the star of the next Scream film. Sources say due to her social media posts that referred to Israel as a colonized land and floated an anti-Semitic trope that Jews control the media, writing, Western media only shows the Israeli side. Why do they do that? I will let you deduce for yourself. Barrera did not respond to a request for comment. Spyglass initially declined comment, though a spokesperson offered a statement to Variety later in the afternoon to clarify that the actor was fired because her posts were seen as anti-Semitic. Spyglass stance is unequivocally clear. We have zero tolerance for anti-Semitism or the incitement of hate in any form, including false references to genocide, ethnic cleansing, Holocaust distortion, or anything that flagrantly crosses the line to hate speech. So she's done. I don't know. I don't know if her career is going to recover from this now.
Yeah.
She was a rising star.
Again, referring back to what Deleted Scenes said in the previous show, look, you have a right to say what you want to say. You do not have a right to be free of consequence. And if you are spewing stuff on social media, you've got to expect that your employer or potential future employers will be seeing that and making decisions accordingly. Now, that being said, and I agree with anyone who takes that position, absolutely 100%, I absolutely do. I would also point out, however, that if you lose a job because of something you post on social media that can be considered to be perfectly legal expression of political opinion, and you can demonstrate that's the reason you lost your job, you might have a very, very good lawsuit. So maybe some of these companies making these decisions with people that are currently employed with them or currently under contract and letting them go, maybe you might want to think about those legal, ramifications. Maybe that these HR departments might want to do their job and protect the company from lawsuits rather than protecting their ESG scores. Just saying.
Well, the ESG scores seem to be a lot what they're caring about these days. But welcome, Leia.
It's also why they're going broke.
Welcome, Leia Plus Size, to the chat. Yes, they are still making Scream movies. They've made a Scream 5 and a Scream 6 since Scream 4.
Doesn't look like they'll be making a Scream 7 if it keeps going the way it is.
More on that when we get to the next article. But Melissa Barrera, though, I thought she was a rising star, Mexican actress. She was going to. In fact, it's funny when Rachel Ziegler got dropped from the Paddington movie, the Paddington 3. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, well, maybe Melissa Barrera can step in because I figure, but I don't think that's going to happen now.
Yeah.
But let's keep going. So this is feeling, Yeah. Likewise, insiders say La La Land producer Mark Platt texted WME leadership about why Boots Riley was still a client after Sorry to Bother You. Writer-director urged his followers and ex to boycott an industry screening of footage of Hamas atrocities at the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Los Angeles. He dubbed the footage murderous propaganda and warned that when IDF and Israeli officials are at The Hague for war crimes, massacre, and genocidal actions, you won't want your name or image to have been anywhere near it. However, Riley remains an agency client. A Platt rep says he merely flagged the post. Wow. Okay. Meanwhile, several agents at UTA have expressed outrage internally over the recent open letter spearheaded by writer Ta-Nehisi Coates. Wasn't he the one that was supposed to be doing the new that Superman Abrams project that he got off the ground? Okay, and believes he should be dropped from the agency's roster. Coates was the first signature for an October 14th letter that many industriites felt dehumanized Israelis and softened Hamas actions with such lines as Hamas militants broke out of Gaza. More than 1,300 Israelis were subsequently killed. The agency is sticking with him, though it has severed ties with Susan Sarandon over controversial words on the conflict. Well, that's interesting.
Now, this
Why
is
does
a
she
little
get
bit
severed,
different.
but he's okay. And
When you're talking, and again, I'm going back to speaking legally, right? If you are a talent agency, right? If you are a representative for somebody, you have to. This is not, and people say this all the time. The agency fired, the actor. That's not how it works. It's actually the other way around. It's they are your representation. You hire them, right? Just like you would hire a lawyer to represent you in court. You're hiring an agent to represent you in contract negotiations and promote you with businesses and whatnot. The fact is, as a contractor, those agencies or a lawyer or whatever can say, you know what, we don't want to do business with you anymore for any reason. You make it difficult for us to, represent you because you've done and said things that ticked off half of Hollywood. I could spend my time better working with somebody who keeps their mouth shut. Sorry,
Yeah.
But again, that's very different from you have a contract with somebody and you say, I'm breaking the contract because we don't like your politics. That can get you into some legal problems. But I'll be honest with you, from a personal standpoint, I could kind of see, kicking Susan Sarandon to the curb. Just saying. But then, I don't like Susan Sarandon, so I'm open about my bias here.
Anyway, CA2 has been more willing to cut ties over problematic social media missives. The agency fired assistant German Jasmine Barakat over a post that called an all Israelis white supremacists and mocked a post from the country's official handle that stated even Israelis deserve to live by calling it a quote-unquote fascist regime. CA has dropped Sarah Rao and Regina Jackson, who wrote the 2022 book White Women, Everything You Already Know About Your Own Racism and How to Do Better, over their social media posts. Rao had
What does
written
that
on
tell
X. Yeah, well, Zionists are starting to panic over that more and more of the world sees them for the bloodthirsty, genocidal ghouls they are. That's some pretty ugly language.
I wanna talk about this genocide thing. Okay, since 1940, how many Israelis have died because of Palestinians, and how many Palestinians have died because of Israelis? Let's just pure numbers.
I don't know.
I'm not going to answer that question. You do your own research.
Okay.
But if you were intellectually honest about it, you'd see the numbers and you'd go, gee, these Israelis they're supposed to be committing this genocide are doing a really piss poor job of it.
Yeah, well, I do want to make a point too. We're saying all of this too now. There are still hostages being held over there, including many Israeli and also many American hostages still being held by this terrorist group known as Hamas. And I don't understand this. I feel that after September 11th, the world was sympathetic to us after we had our terrorist attack. Maybe less so as the months went on, but at least in the beginning of that, I felt like Israel's not been given any grace during this thing. I think people have been piling on.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal opinion here, like I said. But Rao tells that Hot Variety that she is punishing people of color for speaking out. Look at this. It's disgusting. The genocide is indisputable. You can watch it. So here we go. Yeah, you can watch it on TV. You will be on the wrong side. It's same on the CA for doing this to Maha. So it really seems Hollywood is split over this. And I think even a certain political party is very split on this issue too right now. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, and what's funny is it's causing the general public to take a look and see, what side these people come down on, who the real racists are, and ultimately, especially when it comes to politics, why are we involved in foreign wars? Seriously, I mean, regardless of what side you're in, you fall in under this. Maybe let other countries handle their own problems.
Well, to be fair, I think that's what Israel is trying to do here. But
yeah,
it's just, when it comes to Israel, though, the use of the word genocide has long been considered problematic in Hollywood. In 2021, Mark Ruffalo apologized for suggesting Israel was committing genocide, added, "It's not accurate. It's inflammatory, deconstructed, being used to justify anti-Semitism here and abroad."
And let me just say something else. A lot of the people taking a certain side on this don't know their damn history. And let me tell you something. We're going to be talking about people not knowing their history later on in the stream.
So I have a question. I guess what I'm saying here, Mark Ruffalo made a statement, correct? And then suggested that they were doing it, but then later on apologized and corrected his statement. Is that right?
I don't know, because I don't listen to Mark Ruffalo anymore.
But my point is,
all he does is regurgitate verbal diarrhea.
It seems like he was forgiven for that statement and he was able to move on. And I feel that part of the problem we have with the cancel culture now is that when people apologize, even if they see an error in something they said, they're still canceled. You understand?
Now that I agree with 100%. We do need to be able to have some sense of just being mature, but at the same time, you apologize for something. Maybe keep your mouth shut going forward. You keep making stupid comments. I'm sorry. Now I'm not accepting your apology anymore because it doesn't mean anything.
Well, now I'm thinking of The View. But anyway.
Well, there you go. And they never apologize unless they're being sued.
All right, let me try to wrap this up. The divisions in Hollywood could deepen. I'm not entirely surprised by the Jew hating we're seeing, but the fact that the dead weren't even buried when at best they were getting both sides isms was horrifying, says Robert Newman, a WME agent, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And many are questioning why Hollywood entities, notably the Writers Guild of America, have remained quiet. And I have to admit, where are they on this? What is their statement and why? Am I wrong here?
Actually, I would argue maybe it's best that they do keep quiet about it. And maybe they recommend to the people that are members of their guild, maybe you guys should start being quiet about this too.
So maybe stay out.
We just went through all of this, trying to get our the strikes and the collective bargaining and stuff. Maybe let's get back to work instead of finding ways to put half of the business out of business,
But the problem is that I don't know. I just feel,
again, these are people that have no business wading into this particular debate anyway. I don't care what the Writers Guild of America thinks about what's going on in the Middle East. Why should anybody?
But that's the thing. I wish they would focus more on entertaining than being activists. The trouble is, I think increasingly over the years, especially this this decade,
and that's probably the statement they should be putting out.
They have been more. I think they put being an activist above being anything else. And I guess they feel as an actor they have the microphone. And the problem is that now you have Hollywood.
And that's really the problem, right? They've done this to themselves, And now, and we predicted this. They're going to start going after their own, and sure enough, they are. And it's the same people that were saying, cancel Gina Carano are now the ones being canceled because they're the ones with unpopular opinions. Well, you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
Donkey. Well, I'm trying to censor myself.
Okay. Time to go on to Jenna Ortega. I don't know why I keep calling her Jenna.
And I've gotten myself so worked up. I'm going to step away for just a second while you read this.
Go step away, breathe. Okay, I knew this is touching, so here we go.
I'll be right back.
I'll go ahead and post this. So Jenna Ortega drops out of Scream 7. And it's so quiet now because he muted. Okay. Give me 1 second, everybody. All right. So here we go. Jenna Ortega drops out of Scream 7. Hollywood Reporter. And the Scream franchise is getting murdered. One day after Spyglass fired star Melissa Barrera from Scream 7, the latest installment of the horror movie series, it has been revealed that Jenna Ortega will also not be returning. Losing the two main leads who were instrumental in revitalizing the aging franchise now puts its future in question. Christopher Landon remains on board as director for now, but next steps for Spyglass remain unclear. Sources insist that Ortega's departure has nothing to do with Barrera's firing, which occurred after she made dozens of social media posts referring to the Israel-Hamas war. Sources say that Ortega's representatives informed Spyglass prior to the actor's strike that the actress, one of the biggest young Hollywood names to emerge in the past decade, would not be returning. Multiple sources say the actress will either had to deal or in the renegotiating of her option, asked what the movie company deemed was too much money. Spyglass had previously declined to bring back original franchise star Neve Campbell after she had asked for a significant raise for Scream 6. Campbell would later say, "I couldn't walk on the set feeling undervalued." Barrera and Ortega have played sisters in the franchise since 2022 Scream. In the short time since that film was released, Ortega became a sizable star thanks to her work on Netflix's hit Wednesday and was seen as a linchpin to the Scream franchise. 2022 Scream revamped the series with younger stars including Barrera and Ortega teaming up with legacy actors Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette. It grossed $137.7 million globally. The New York set Scream 6 topped $168.9 million globally. So there we have it. Jenna Ortega is out of Scream. But please let the screams end. I actually liked what they did with the reboot, or the requel, as they said in the thing, in the original movie. But Leia Plus Size feel they should stop with the Scream movies. It's overkill. I thought the same thing, but I really enjoyed Scream 5, which they titled Scream because they were on the bandwagon of Halloween. The new requel of Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis, they just titled it Halloween, and that was all. But I don't know where they go going forward with this. I think they have to bring Neve Campbell back if they're going to bring it to a Scream 7, because I don't see how they do another movie without the two main leads that they introduce as passing of the torch. Because I remember a while back, do you remember when we talked about Neve Campbell wasn't going to come back because they weren't offering her enough money? Do you remember that when we talked about that?
Yes, I do.
And, okay, fair enough. And the Scream 5 was sort of a passing of the torch, so she didn't necessarily have to come back, do you understand, to be in this next movie. But the problem is now they lost both of their leads, so
right.
What do? Do they bring back Neve Campbell? I don't think they have a choice. I think they have to meet her demands for money,
there's a couple elements here, right? One, on the one hand, and I've seen a lot of comments about this, do we even need a Scream 7 at this point? For crying out loud, let it go already.
Here's what it is. I know you say that. I've been wanting you to. You said you were going to start rewatching those again, right? I think you bought them on DVD, or at least the first 4, right? You're going to catch up. Here's how I feel about the Scream movies, especially with the original trilogy. I liked the first one. Second one was okay. I thought it was kind of followed on what the first one did. Third one was kind of the weakest, right? We get Scream 4, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was kind of funny. That was where you got introduced to, they introduced millennial characters into the mix, right? Because
Right.
they were the ones in high school. It was Sydney's niece that was involved in that movie, right? Then we get to Scream, which was really doing a play on Hollywood's need to do what they called in the movie requels. You know how like Scream
Right.
movies like Scream 2, oh, it's all about doing sequels. What happens in a sequel and all this
Right.
trilogies. And this was about the requel. And the idea is you have to bring back legacy characters, but you also need new characters.
Right.
So, and it was like and it was all about how someone out there in the fandom hated what they did with the Scream, with the Stab franchise, which is the movie within the movie, which they based on the Woodsboro movies. And someone got really angry, and they said the guy that made the last, I think the guy that made the last Star Wars movie worked on it or something, and people hated it. I guess they were hinting that Rian Johnson did the last.
That's
Stab
funny,
movie, and the fans hated it, and it was just And now someone was trying to make a new murder scene happen with the original location and drag the old characters out of hiding because they wanted to make their own real-life murder thing happen that could be then turned into a later Stab movie that they would like. Do you understand? That was the theory about the killer's motivation. Right. And then we got Scream, the last one, which I gave points for at least updating the setting. It was in New York City. So you had a city environment as opposed to the small suburban town, the suburban community, like the Scream movies usually took place in. So, but I don't know.
Well, if they've now done one in New York,
yes,
maybe they should forget about all the legacy characters and make Scream 7 Scream in space.
Stop. I'm surprised they didn't do that as a joke.
Right?
It's one of the future Stab iterations was Scream in space, because they said there was one that involved time travel, which people thought was too went away from. When they ran out of actual murder, real life murder cases to roll up, that's when the directors got weird, and one involved time travel.
Oh my God!
Future Stab. I know how you feel about when they do wrong, but I don't know what they do with Scream 7, and I'm sorry. I think you need to bring Neve Campbell back. And do you do another passing of the torch to new characters again? And she had small children when we were last introduced.
Honestly,
she had a baby carriage, so I don't know how.
I'm at the point where it's like, where do you go with this from here now?
I said,
you basically have to do a movie that almost lampoons itself, talking about film series that have gone on way too long and are now about nothing.
Here's what I liked about Scream 5, if you ever get around to watching it, though. Here's what it was. It was taking, the Star Wars sequel trilogy. You've heard of it, right? Okay,
I've heard of it. Yes,
it did.
May have seen one or two of them.
Stuff happened in the Scream requel movie that happens in those Star Wars sequels, but they made it work as opposed to it not working in the Star Wars sequels. And I don't want to tell you what they did or how they did it because I want you to go into it fresh.
Sure.
It's a pity, Melissa Barrera. I mean, it's another canceled actress. It is reminding me a bit of I think Deleted Scenes was on earlier talking about it too, and I don't know, I was getting Gina Carano vibes from the whole thing, but for different reasons, obviously. But
absolutely. Real quick, let's say hi to the people that have joined recently. Leia Plus Size, JPRPH1, Samuel Proctor, and Dee Dee Meyer Jr. Welcome, all of you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes. So, welcome. Again, I refer to Retro Blasting since it's okay for stories to end video.
Yes! That's an excellent point. This is the problem. There are a lot of film series that outlive their usefulness. And some of them can continue indefinitely.
Yeah.
You could, if you did it right, you could do that with any of your superhero stories. You could do that with Indiana Jones. You could do it with James Bond. It's the serialized concept where you don't bog it down with the canon of their backstory and their families and their aging, and you don't tie them to a particular actor, and you just keep recasting and you keep telling a new adventure of. But when it comes to something like a horror series, it begins to beleaguer the whole point. it's like the whole idea of the immortal killer. Somebody just shoot him into space already. Okay, now that's where, Jason in space would have made sense, right?
Well,
Shoot him into the
movies,
damn
though,
sun.
It's just the killer wearing the same mask again.
Yeah.
You understand? So
yeah.
It's
and at this point, you should almost turn it in. I mean, you got to find a way to revitalize it, right? So fine, if it's another murderer wearing a Scream mask, now make it a good whodunit. Right, that's what the first movie was.
I liked Scream 5. I thought the last one was okay. It wasn't bad. I just felt
there should be
they're getting too afraid to kill off now their new legacy characters, which
is a problem. You should be willing to kill off everybody if it's going to be a slasher
Not to
film.
say there are a couple characters who who barely survived the last movie, yet they survived this movie as well. And I'm thinking, no, your luck runs out at some point.
Yeah, and the fact is, the tropes. Because remember, the whole idea behind this is it's about the horror slasher tropes, right? What is the trope? Everyone dies except the last girl. Actually, in this day and age, this would be a perfect time for them to jump on that whole concept of the last girl. You have somebody say, oh, that is so 2023. Of course the girl survives because whammon, strong whammon. And then someone points out, but this goes back to the 70s and 80s with the slasher trope. The woman always survives, right?
Well, not all women survive these slasher movies.
Well, no, but the one that does survive is usually a woman. It's very rare that it's Tommy Jarvis, I suppose, in Friday
the 13th.
Friday the 13th series. But for the most part, it's usually the woman, the last woman, right, or the last girl.
The final girl. That's what they call
the
it.
Final girl. That's what it is.
Slasher movie with paintball. Hold on, I want to find the title of that movie that I really liked. No, paintball's not. That's not the movie I was looking for. There's an actual paintball movie. Okay, I'll have to find that for Paintball Massacre. That's a thing? Really? Are you kidding me? That's not the movie I was looking for. Okay, so apparently this is not as an original idea as I thought. No, it was a movie that starts out with a paintball match, and at first you think it's like a post-apocalyptic, like Mad Max sort of scenario. But then there's just kids in like this rundown town doing a paintball match, and then they go off to the cabin in the woods. But it turns out these guys are also really good shots with actual guns, and then they're up against sadistic psycho killers. It's almost like a serial killer thing, but the difference was I felt this time round the protagonists, the heroes, were actually well matched.
Yeah,
like they could actually do damage to the people coming after them. So it was. I don't remember the name of the movie.
I would recommend another one.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like this one. It's not a horror, it's not a slasher, it's not a killer, but it kind of is. Gotcha from 1985, Anthony Edwards and Linda Fiorentino. That is a must see, folks. Check that one out. You will thank me. Gotcha with an exclamation point.
Gotcha. Okay. Waves hand. No age, but that was what you were looking for. Funny, man. I did find the title. It's called The Zero Boys. I recommend The Zero Boys. I tell you to rent it from Netflix, but they no longer send out videos, do they? You there?
Yeah.
Okay. Zero Boys.
Zero Boys.
Okay. Zero Boys. If it's on Tubi, I'll let you know. But for now, let's move on.
Well, I'll look right now.
I feel bad about this though, because even though I didn't agree with Melissa Barrera politically, I did think she gave a good performance in those Scream movies, and it's just I feel is Hollywood going to survive this decade because you're forcing everybody to take these political stances instead of just letting people keep their mouths shut. I mean, I remembered when they were doing the tour for Avengers Endgame, and you see like Don Cheadle.
It is on Tubi.
There you go, bookmark it. It's worth checking out.
Okay.
And you had like Don Cheadle with Brie Larson, and who's the actor that played a Hawkeye? He was there too, and they're acting very mature, realizing it's a privilege to be in these movies.
Yeah.
Just like and Brie Larson is just spouting all of her representation stuff, and it's just it's. And speaking of Captain Marvel, now we get to lead in. I didn't even realize that.
Right.
I didn't do that on purpose, but here we go.
Yeah, so I got to front load this one. Go ahead and read the title first.
All right. I will go ahead and read the title. South Park forces the Marvels to cut gay scenes.
So it's interesting that I actually had to do a lot of looking to find an article that was, well, let's just put it, wasn't 100% biased in the LGB direction.
Yeah.
Every article I was finding was literally from a gay outlet. I kid you not. Including release the sapphic cut of Marvel's You Cowards by Pride.com, and Out.com claims there's still hope for lesbian representation in Marvel with Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney in Madam Web, and Catherine Hahn and Aubrey Plaza in Agatha Coven of Chaos. I kid you not. All of the gay outlets, when I was looking this up, it's all that came up, and they're all losing their effing minds about this.
Oh, yikes. Okay, well.
Remember when we used to pick on people, the small minority of butthurt fans? Well, guess what? That's who these people are now.
Now they're the minority. Everything's topsy-turvy this year. Have you noticed this?
Mm-hmm. Because the pendulum has to swing back the other way. But
it's not. That's the problem. So now it's almost like, I'm telling you, it's almost like the left is now getting divided. Like, I guess you have like the elite left, I guess.
And that's what I mean. That is the pendulum swinging the other way. Because it's like you can't have it both ways, folks. You were using these rules against us, yes. And now it's coming back to bite you. Congratulations.
Which shows you how much influence the other side has right now. But
True.
But it just because now they're eating their own, it looks like. That's what it's seeming. But a YouTube channel named The Quartering. I've not heard of him. I'm joking.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
All right. A YouTube channel named The Quartering has reported a rumor about the Marvels, the latest installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The rumor suggests that an initial version of the film contains a scene that would have confirmed an earlier romantic relationship between the characters Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, and Valkyrie.
And and again, for clarity, these same gay outlets that are incensed about this right now were also the ones reporting that there was going to be this gay representation in the Marvels months ago. So it wasn't just The Quartering, but we gotta point at those evil righties, right?
Yes. Yes. However, this specific scene is omitted from the final version of the film. I remember Tessa Thompson. She was making some big statement at Comic-Con a few years back about that you were going to see Valkyrie in that gay relationship on the screen. Is that correct?
I suspect so.
I seem to recall that was a thing. I don't know. Okay. Per the rumor, the scene features Valkyrie, played by Tessa Thompson, making a cameo appearance on Carol Danvers' spacecraft, the Hootie. Here, Valkyrie assists in relocating Skrulls from a destroyed temporary home world. The interaction between Valkyrie and Captain Marvel in this scene suggests a significant past connection. The scene includes a prolonged silent embrace from Captain Marvel, hinting at an emotional depth in the relationship. Furthermore, the scene reportedly concludes with Valkyrie kissing Captain Marvel on the cheek and expressing a hopeful sentiment for their subsequent encounter. Revelation from Can We Get Some Toast, an insider with reputation for accurate Marvel-related scoops, further bolster the rumor's credibility. According to a tweet X from them, the final version of the Marvels excluded several plot elements, most notably the explicit acknowledgement of a past romantic relationship between Captain Marvel and Valkyrie. A particular revealing quote reportedly cut from the movie was, "We work better as friends." Fans allege that this hesitation from Disney to delve fully into this storyline. The rumored development stirs questions about how such a relationship would fit within the timeline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Post-Endgame, Captain Marvel is shown as heavily involved in interstellar conflicts, leaving little room for personal relationship explorations in the narrative. This and Marvel's ongoing efforts to diversify its storytelling suggests a complex challenge in integrating this relationship into an already established narrative framework. Returning to the insights from the Quarterings video, it is mentioned that the situation with the Marvels is allegedly influenced by a special episode of South Park titled "Joining the Pandaverse." And of course, we talked about this the other week about it's put a chick in it, make it gay. That
Exactly.
whole thing, right? When the weird Kathleen Kennedy from the other universe. But yeah, so here we are. So what do you think? Do you think they actually cut something in reaction to the South Park episode? I would argue it probably happened sooner. Or earlier, earlier. It probably happened after.
So in reference to those articles that I, kind of, talked about earlier, I did kind of read through some of them and did not realize how many times there had been talk about this kind of representation that ended up getting dropped in the history of Marvel films. So I suspect that there's been a lot of pressure the other way. No, tone that down. That's not necessary. Just drop it. Even before the Panderverse. But I think that it would be ridiculous to think that they're not paying attention to that. That was huge. And that, and I said it when it happened. I said, this is going to be the meme that people are going to keep dropping. And they're going to keep saying, put a chick in it, make her gay. Well, guess what? You can't argue that's what you're doing, right? As you try to argue against it, all you're doing is underscoring it. So, yeah, I think that definitely did have something to do with it.
Release the sapphic cut of the Marvels, you cowards, pride.com. Is that you posted?
Yeah, that's what I was just quoting. I'm not sending any traffic to those outlets. I'm just quoting what they said. So just like there's Snyder bots out there that wanted the release of the Snyder cut, there's gay enthusiasts that want the sapphic cut of the Marvels.
Would that do better than the cut we have now?
I think if a different studio did it, as a parody, maybe, yeah. It would probably be better. From everything that I've seen of those adult parodies of these films, they're actually better costumes, better written, and certainly more entertaining.
Oh no, you just brought up a point that I bet there are better versions now of Marvel movies made by a certain other industry than what's coming out of Disney.
I'm not joking. I am serious. I have seen the outtakes, snippets of the adult parody of the original Captain Marvel, where she makes jokes about Brie Larson and whatnot, and her costume is spot on.
Yes. It's like the one from the comics, right?
Yes.
The leotard.
Yes.
That was a nice costume.
I told you about the Star Trek parody, that if you take out all the sex scenes, it's actually a really well-written episode of Star Trek. And I mean an original episode written by some writer that works in that industry, not, like they actually took an episode of the original of Star Trek The Next Generation. It's somebody who thought through the lore of Star Trek and understood who Tasha Yar was and how she died and her relationship with Data and, Deanna Troi and Riker and what their relationship is and all. I mean, I'm like, these people know Trek better than the people writing Trek now.
Well, certainly better than those who wrote Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yup.
Hello to all running behind but still listening. Don't forget to hit the like, share the stream, and follow each other and the channel. Yes, definitely. And Lay Plus Size, feel free to drop Wolf 10's link to. I know you're on with him.
Absolutely.
Too, yeah. But Christopher Nolan says streaming only content is in danger and can get taken down.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me drop that.
This is the own physical media portion of our stream, correct?
Absolutely, and this is probably one that I'm going to have to drop in multiple because
I got some physical media on Black Friday. I got, let me see, I got Top Gun Maverick. Ever hear of it?
I've heard of that. I've heard of it.
It was on sale, and I got what was the other movie I got? I think I got, this wasn't on Black Friday sale, but I bought it anyway to get the free shipping. I did the Watcher, the one I liked a lot that was on Shudder. It's like a thriller. It's almost like Rear Window in reverse. Or maybe that's not quite right. No, yeah, the instead of the guy seeing the killer through the window, it's the killer stalking someone through the window. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get you.
It's interesting. I don't know. I like the premise of like an American going to Europe and feeling kind of isolated. That's sort of what the movie was about. This was a woman whose husband was Romanian descent. She was also Romanian descent, but didn't speak Romanian, and they go to Romania for it because he got a job there. And how it's kind of awkward because you're kind of a fish out of water, but then there could be someone after you as well because there's a murderer lurking about.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, moving about though, Christopher Nolan. Here we go. So from Variety. Christopher Nolan made headlines earlier this month when he took a playful jab at streaming platforms while discussing the upcoming home release of Oppenheimer, the atomic bomb drama, which grossed a staggering $950 million in theaters worldwide, is hitting Blu-ray and other digital platforms this month. Nolan said at a recent Oppenheimer screening that it's important to own the film on Blu-ray so that no evil streaming service can come steal it from you.
Exactly.
That's a jab.
Exactly.
It was a joke when I said it, but nothing's a joke when it's transcribed onto the internet, Nolan recently told the Washington Post in a follow-up interview. There is a danger these days that if things only exist in the streaming version, they do get taken down. They come and go, the director added. I have to say, Apple TV Plus, I'm still waiting for some of those movies they have to come to a physical format. It has not happened.
Yep.
There has been no release of Greyhound. That was supposed to get a theatrical release a few summers ago, and it didn't. It went straight, because of the pandemic, it went straight to streaming, and then it's never been released.
Yeah. And that's the big problem, because if you didn't see it on their streaming service, you will not see it.
Yep.
Right? It's, as far as you're concerned, it doesn't exist. And this is one of the things that I have said about things like Star Wars right now, even some of the Marvel stuff. How can you consider that stuff to be canon if not everyone has seen it or even really has access to it? Well, you gotta subscribe to. Okay, fine. I'm done then with that thing, because you put it behind a paywall. I am willing to go to a theater and pay for it. I am willing to buy the DVD. I am not willing to have you reach your hand into my damn pocket and keep taking money from me every month.
Streamers have become notoriously known in the last year for pulling original titles from their platforms in order to license them out elsewhere and open up potential revenue streams. When such titles are streaming-only offerings, the removal makes it impossible to view the films elsewhere. Such was the case this year with the Disney Plus movie Crater, for instance. The streaming-only family adventure was pulled from Disney Plus in June. It could not be viewed anywhere until it was reissued as a digital release months later in September. For Nolan, owning physical media is the only way to combat such streaming trends. Now, I take it this Crater movie was given you can purchase it digitally. You there? Like
yeah.
On iTunes and Vudu.
Yeah, that's great. You can buy it digitally, so they can take that away from you at any time too.
Anyway, Guillermo del Toro agrees, having shared Nolan's recent quotes on X, formerly Twitter, and adding his own commentary on the issue. Physical media is almost a Fahrenheit 451, where people memorize entire books and thus become the book they loved. Level of responsibility, del Toro wrote to his followers. If you own a great 4K, HD, Blu-ray, DVD, etc., on film or films you love, you are the custodian of those films for generations to come.
You know, I like what David Pensack just said. If paying isn't owning, then piracy isn't stealing.
That's an interesting quote.
I like that. I don't know where that's from, but I like it.
It's a real problem for video games because several video games have just vanished from old consoles. They don't get re-released, and what do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, you've
And I'm a big
talked about
proponent, and I'm a big proponent of, when a company like Konami, for instance, I'm not a fan of Konami in general, but they did do a great job on that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection.
that.
So
Yeah.
I would
Speaking
argue
of,
buy that when it comes in. Go
I
ahead.
didn't mention to you the one Black Friday deal that I did get.
What'd you get?
I got 2 games on Steam.
What games?
Portal and Portal 2. I got them
yeah.
for like $1 each.
Those are good.
Yep.
I have those on the Switch. I got them on the Switch when they were on sale. Not that cheap, but
Yeah.
because they had to make special Switch versions of those. But Portal and Portal 2 are classics. They're actually considered, I want to say, puzzle exploration, maybe? Is that what
Yep.
it is? Because you have to think around how the device works. It's interesting, those VTubers, the Japanese women that pose as anime characters. And
Yeah.
They did some. One of them.
Wolf 10 Media exposed me to that, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I never got into it, but what I saw, I laughed my ass off.
Yeah, and they did Portal because apparently for a while the Japanese companies wouldn't let them do the Japanese games, so they would just go and get the Western games. So they did Portal and Portal 2 on one of the streams. It was interesting. So you're seeing this Japanese anime character playing this American video game, and
That's funny.
Troy would say, I'm so sorry you missed out. Wonderful experience, rich fan. Okay.
Oh yeah, Samuel Proctor was saying, what would you say if I told you that Star Trek Into Darkness was my first Star Trek experience? I'm like, that's a shame. You've missed out on a really wonderful franchise.
It's
if
like
that's all you know.
If you were me at Bob Evans today and you ordered the biscuits and gravy and the gravy wasn't up to par, you would not be a biscuits and gravy fan.
There is no such thing as biscuits and gravy that's up to par. I would be disappointed if I found it on my plate.
It was watery. It was a little too watery. It was too much like gravy. That was the problem. Anyway.
I just remember my grandfather, first time he went into a Bob Evans, who threw up on my plate?
Not every meal has biscuits and gravy. He probably ordered one that came with it as part of the combo.
He did, and he had no idea. He had no idea what this crap was.
Well, the biscuits are still good. You could eat the biscuits on their own. Good Southern-style biscuits. Angel Studios have been releasing their movies and shows on Blu-ray even when they first released on their streaming service. Yes, Angel Studios does release their stuff, and Shudder is pretty good about that too. They a lot of their Shudder originals do come to physical media as well. So I remember one guy, I think someone who you had on your stream was saying that he
Greg from Fanzine.
Yeah, Greg from Fanzine, because they'll support a streaming service if the streaming service supports physical media.
Right.
And I like Shudder, and I watch the movies in there, and I'll eventually buy the movies I see on there in physical, like Kids versus Aliens, which I thought was brilliant. I highly recommend that movie, Kids versus Aliens. It's what you expect it to be. It's completely gross, and it's aliens.
That actually sounds kind of awesome, to be honest with you.
It's ridiculous. I want to say it's an 80s homage picture, but it really isn't, even though it has like one of those synthwave scores. Of course, I realize people listen to synthwave now, so maybe it isn't. But you know what it is? You were probably not of that generation where you had your own camcorder, could make your own movie on your own, right?
No, I was a little bit before that.
You were a little bit before, so you didn't have the VHS.
My mom had one of those big-ass VHS ones.
Yes, we had one too.
And it was so difficult to work with, I couldn't really... You certainly couldn't carry it around and do stuff with it. But you could pretend to be George Lucas and stuff in your backyard.
When they got more portable in the 80s, you and your friends would try to make your own movie, and it would be a disaster, okay?
Of course.
And it would not come together. And this movie has...
Be like Jack Black, sweeting it, right?
Yes, exactly. Sweeting it?
What was that movie?
Oh, Be Kind, Rewind.
Be Kind, Rewind, right.
Good one, yeah. It was kind of like that, and you'd make these movies. And what the funny thing was, the kids are making their own movie, which is sort of like, it almost reminds you like they're doing like a Planet of the Apes movie, but if dinosaurs came, like anthropomorphic dinosaurs came back from the past, and that was what they're trying to make as their home movie. And then it goes into the actual movie, which feels like one of those movies that the kids had a higher budget. And it's and like it has that feel. I can't explain it to you.
Yeah.
You have to just see it. It's I thought it was brilliant myself, but they do the scene with the drunken high school party where the kids are spray painting on the walls and throwing up in the utensil drawers and stuff, and it's
and I do feel that the streaming services now are trying to operate under the old network paradigm, right? They're trying to see themselves as the old ABC, NBC, and CBS of the modern day, which there are huge differences, but they are the channels that carry the shows that are either up for renewal or being canceled.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's what is it? What is that expression? You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That
Exactly.
you throw around. And speaking of which, yeah, let's go to the next article, as I think you were leading into that, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, The Horror of Dolores Roach, Harlan Coben Shelter, and With Love. I kind of wish I'd watched one of these while I had the chance.
I never heard of any of these.
But you get Amazon Prime,
I know. I don't watch it. I only have Amazon Prime because we use Amazon for other things.
But they sometimes...
And I will watch Outer Range if we get a second season.
Reacher was good. The first season, I haven't watched season 2 yet. Reacher was good. Jack Ryan was good, actually. Do you like the Jack Ryan movies?
Yeah.
Fancy ones. You'll like the show. I think the show was good.
Okay.
It had Jim from the Office. That's that actor's name again. Married to Emily Blunt.
Oh, the one that should be Reed Richards. Yeah.
Yes, he was Jack Ryan on the series, and it was good.
And I'll tell you what, if he's not Reed Richards, I'm not seeing that movie. I don't care what anyone says about anything else.
What have I heard? There's another rumor floating around that they're going to have the Silver Surfer be a lady.
Which is stupid because there's already a female Herald of Galactus. They don't have to race swap it. It's another example of a fake representation. And I'll tell you what, every time I see it, someone talking about that on Twitter or whatever, it's the meme from Into the Panderverse. Because it just fits perfectly. There are already female characters you could be using, and you are just lazily swapping out.
Could Silver Surfer come to the Earth to help to warn the Earth that Galactus is coming, and then Galactus could have the female Herald at that point? Would that work, maybe? Because he was the former Herald, but he left. I don't know. I don't know enough about the lore.
At any given time, Galactus has many different Heralds. At least, I think, 4? I don't know, but and I forget her name, but where Silver Surfer is this like, Ken Dollish, silver guy on a surfboard. I forget the female character's name. She's like all flames, and she flies on her own power and whatnot.
Okay.
And she has equal level of power as him.
We'll talk about that.
It's the stupidest crap.
It's a rumor anyway, and there's enough crap going on at Disney. We don't have to talk about the rumors. But The Horror of Dolores Roach, Harlan Coben Shelter, and With Love and Scrapped on Amazon Prime Video. Thriller series The Horror of Dolores Roach and Mystery Harlan Coben Shelter. Both premiere their freshman installments this summer and won't be renewed for sophomore installments. Well, romantic comedy series With Love debuted its second season in June and will not return for a third at the streamer, an individual with knowledge told The Wrap. The trio of series joined previously canceled Prime Video shows The Peripheral and A League of Their Own, both of which reversed course after being renewed for an additional second season, likely a result of the Hollywood double strike, whose impact is still being felt after the resolution of both the WGA and SAG-AFTRA labor dispute. I keep forgetting, when these strikes happen, you get canceled series.
Yeah.
Remember the Bionic Woman remake that didn't make it because of initially created by as a one-woman play titled Empanada Loca by Aaron Mark. The Horror of Dolores Roach was led by Justina Machado, who starred as a homicidal ex-con working alongside a conspiring chef, Alejandro Hernandez, who disposes of her bodies by turning them into empanadas. Oh, no. No. Now I want to watch this. Best empanadas in town, right? Dude,
I guess.
I just know. That's like Motel Hell. Remember Farmer Vincent?
Oh, yes, I do.
Takes all sorts of critters to make Farmer Vincent's fritters. Okay, Mark wrote and directed the original podcast as well as the pilot script for the horror of Dolores Roach and served as co-showrunner in the series with Dar Resnick. Resnick and Mark served as an executive producer alongside Daphne Rubin Vega, Jason Blum, Chris McCumber, Jeremy Golden, Chris Dickey from Blumhouse Television, Dawn Ostroff, Mimi O'Donnell, and Justin McGodrick for Spotify, and Gloria Calderon Kellett for Glow Nation Studios, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Calderon Kellett also created executive produced with Love, which centered on siblings Lily, Emerald Tobia, and Jorge Jr. Diaz, Mark Indelicado, who aim to find love and purpose in this multi-generation holiday-themed series. The series was co-produced by Kellett's production company, Glow Nation, and Amazon Studios. I'm starting to think Paulie from Latino Slant might be making some commentary on this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's sounding like these... Okay. Jaden Michael starred as Mickey in Harlan Coben Shelter, who gets spooked when an older woman refutes his father's death. Harlan Coben and Alan McDonald served as showrunners and EPs for Harlan Coben Shelter alongside I was going to watch that, actually. I remember seeing that advertised.
See, and this is why I hear so many people say, I'm not investing in a new show because I don't know if it's going to last long enough to be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I did watch Jack Reacher. I watched Jack Ryan, which I thought had a satisfying conclusion. I was worried they were going to do something bad to the character, but they didn't. That's good.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, they could even bring John Krasinski back if they ever do a movie version. They could have him play Jack Ryan in a movie version, maybe. But I don't know. Yeah, so that's it. Own physical media when it's offered. I don't know what to do. Because these shows, I mean, there are ways to get your hands on these things, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is what you do. If they don't release it on physical media, you can make your own physical media. Let's put it that way.
You've had to do that with certain Doctor Who's, right?
I have, and that is not anything that even the BBC has cared about. They've actually relied on fans doing that to help them with their own restoration projects. If fans were not making their own physical media all the way back to the 60s, many of the episodes of the classic Doctor Who would have been completely lost.
Though in the original, Surfer got fired from Galactus because he kept him from eating the Earth, if I remember correctly. Is
yes,
that right?
That is correct. That is
Don't
correct.
Eat the Earth.
And you know, and the Silver Surfer is a very interesting character. He's got this great backstory. His planet was destroyed by Galactus, and that's why he has sympathy for other planets. He lost his family and everything. Tragic backstory, but you know what? There's no reason to just swap the gender just to swap the gender. If you want a different Herald of Galactus that is specifically female, already exists. Just create that character. Just cast it.
They did that with Taskmaster.
Yep.
They totally ruined that character. I know he's a favorite Marvel villain, right? Like he's as like a lower tier.
Yeah,
villain.
going all the way back to the early days of the Avengers.
Yeah, and they just swapped him and gave him no personality. It's just a woman underneath.
Yeah, but that's not even the worst part about it. The character's skill set was not even maintained. What made the character interesting was completely lost. It's just, yeah, you don't want to get me off on that tangent.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move on. Legendary movie. This is shocking.
Yeah, this one flew under my radar. This is an article from last month, so we're bringing it to you late. Thank you, WDW Pro, for bringing it to our attention. But
WDW Pro 1030.
It really is starting to look like practical effects are dying. They really, really are.
Legendary Movie Effects Studio shutting down amid strike. Now, I know some of you are wondering, what is this place? And I did the same thing. The rather plain, rundown industrial building at 3210 Kerner Boulevard in San Rafael, California, doesn't look like much from the outside, but it's what happened on the inside that movie lovers will never forget. For more than 4 decades, thousands of the most iconic blockbuster movie effects ever to hit the screen were created in this unique studio. Star Wars, Star Trek, Men in Black, Ghostbusters, Poltergeist, Terminator, and Transformers. The list goes on. Now the home of 3210 Studios, the facility was once home to Industrial Light and Magic, the groundbreaking special effects company director George Lucas found to help make Star Wars. Later in retitled Star Wars New Hope, Lucas had moved ILM from Southern California to San Rafael after the film became a huge success. ILM's digital artists were moved to a new facility in 2006. This explains it. After George Lucas sold the part of the company that specialized in so-called practical effects, the ones requiring models and real explosions. Now this is making sense. So Industrial Light and Magic became a digital-only effects company with the name, but he sold off the part that did the special effects, which became 3210 Studios. Is that right?
Exactly. That's my understanding, yes.
So these are the guys that didn't move on over into CG, which is good, because the problem with CG is it's great when it works and not great when it doesn't work. And I'll be honest with you, I think bad CG holds up worse than bad practical effects. What do you think? X-Men movies. I grew up
in the days before what do you call it? Fuel injection. Learning how to rebuild engines that had carburetors.
Yes.
And the shop teacher had the number one rule: right tool for the right job. And that has proven true in shop, in woodworking, in my home life, and honestly, I think it's true in special effects too. Yeah. And there is a place for computer graphics. There is a place for matte paintings, and there is a place for animatronic puppets, makeup effects. There is a right tool for the right job. And I will point anybody to the original Jurassic Park and say, that ain't all CG.
No, it is not.
Some of it is, some of it isn't, and you'd be surprised what is and what is not.
And then also Hellboy 2, the great practical effects in that movie as late as 2008. I remember that.
And if you look back
I don't know
at
if ILM
films
did those,
like,
maybe they didn't. But
looking back at Poltergeist and
Star Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan.
Well, Star Wars, right?
Wars, all the Star Wars movies, the Return of the Jedi,
Indiana Jones. I mean, all of these films that had these incredible special effects. The Thing. These films that you watch now and they hold up so well.
Yeah. And now it's just kind of it's kind of sad because now everything's moving over to CG. I want to continue reading, though. Former ILM employees took over and continue to run the facility, first as a company called Kerner Optical and eventually as 3210 Studios. For the last 12 years, 3210 kept busy in films like The Lone Ranger, blowing up model trains, and despite being separated from ILM, 3210 Studios was still called on to provide spectacular effects for Star Wars films like Solo and Rogue One. For Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, a model of the planet Kinjimi was rigged with explosions and destroyed on the 3210 soundstage. I do pick on some of the Disney Star Wars movies, but there was a call to bring more of the practical effects back to them, at least for those earlier ones.
Yeah.
Remember, that was one of the selling points, I remember. And I kept thinking that this was still part of ILM.
Yeah, and I never had a problem with their special effects.
No,
the visuals were great in those movies. The stories just sucked.
Yes. But what I thought was interesting was that it's kind of sad. I didn't realize that this had indeed split off from an ILM, because I thought I figured ILM still had their practical division.
Yeah, and as I said, I got this from WDW Pro. I'm dropping the link to their video. Go check it out. Yeah. Give them a thumbs up.
I watched it too.
Drop a comment and say the Geeky Geezers sent you.
But anyway,
anyway, you thought that I was hot and bothered and ranting about the Middle East conflict and debates. Wait until we get to the next topic. This is where I really rant.
Yeah, let's
Keep
go
the
on
volume
here.
down. You're hurting my ears.
Okay.
Ridley Scott tells history buffs criticizing Napoleon to get a life. Yeah, let's move on to this.
Yep.
I this week. All right. Ridley Scott has a simple message for those pointing out factual inaccuracies in his new epic Napoleon, Get a Life. The director will...
And I got a really simple message for him. Go fuck yourself.
Let me finish. We'll give him his day in court, right? Or the court of public opinion.
No, he doesn't deserve it.
The director will soon release his latest picture, which stars Oscar-winning actor Joaquin Phoenix as the 19th century French emperor. The film is based on the true story of Napoleon's rise to power and his tumultuous relationship with Empress Josephine de... I should know how to say that, shouldn't I? Beauharnais, played by Vanessa Kirby. Though some early critics have dubbed the historical drama a quote-unquote masterpiece, some have taken a detailed look at the trailer and have pinpointed elements that fail to match what is written in history books. Historian Dan Snow broke down examples of the film's use of creative license in a TikTok video. One of the issues Snow detailed included the idea that Napoleon came from nothing. As is quoted on the poster, his dad was, in fact, an aristocrat, Snow remarked. He also pointed out that Napoleon didn't shoot at the pyramids at the Battle of the Pyramids, and that despite what's shown in the teaser clip, Marie Antoinette famously had very cropped hair for the execution, and hey, Napoleon wasn't even there. Okay, so in a new profile about Scott for The New Yorker, the matter of Snow's criticism was discussed. According to the publication, when Snow was asked for his view on Snow qualms to the trailer, his response was distinct and simple: get a life. So here we go, but it continues on in this next article as well. Let me see here, though. Let me go ahead, and I'll post it. All right.
Yeah, I'm addressing something here.
Take your time. All right. But let me see here. It goes on to say this is an interview with Ridley Scott too, so we're not going to redo the whole thing, but I'm going to do a couple of clips from it. Sir Ridley Scott is famously forthright. The director of celebrated films including Gladiator, Alien, Thelma and Louise, and Blade Runner certainly speaks his mind. Does he seek out advice, asking someone what they think is a disaster? He tells me. What about his lack of a Best Director Oscar, despite being at the helm of some of the most memorable films of the past 4 decades? And as for the historians who have suggested that his latest movie, Napoleon, is factually inaccurate, you really want me to answer that? It will have a bleep in it. We meet in a plush hotel in central London. Okay, so this sets up the interview. But he goes on to say, Napoleon has been well reviewed in many parts of the United Kingdom media. 5 stars in The Guardian for an outrageously enjoyably cavalry charge of a movie. 4 stars in The Times for it is spectacular historical epic, and an Empire for Scott's entertaining and plausible interpretation of Napoleon. The French critics have been less positive. Le Figaro said the film could be renamed Barbie and Ken Under the Empire. French GQ said there was something deeply clumsy, unnatural, and unintentionally funny in seeing French soldiers in 1793 shouting Vive la France with American accents. And a biographer of Napoleon, Patrick Gunifay, and Le Point magazine attacked the film as a very anti-French and very pro-British rewrite of history. The French don't like themselves, Scott retorts. The audience that I showed it to in Paris, they loved it. His Napoleon watches Marie Antoinette die at the guillotine and fires a cannonball at the Sphinx. The artistic license in this impressionistic film has put up the backs of some historians. Scott says 10,400 books have been written about Napoleon. That's 1 a week since he died. His question, he tells me, to the critics who say the film isn't historically accurate is, were you there? Oh, you weren't there. Then how do you know? Anyway.
There, if you weren't.
Sorry, you were out of the stream.
Sorry, yeah. Okay. So, in other words, it's okay to slander anyone you want, because if you weren't there, how do you know, right? These are real people who really lived, who did real things that affected people that are alive today. They shaped history. So, yeah, if you're one of these assholes that wants to rewrite history in your own image, go F yourself. Really. It does matter. History matters. The details matter. And if you are not willing to get that history right, you should not be using these historical characters. I have said the same thing about fictional characters. They have a canon and a history. And if you are going to write them, you must understand and honor that history. If not, make up new characters. And that's fiction. This is reality, okay? There are historians, paleontologists, anthropologists who spend their lives doing actual research and can demonstrate what did and did not happen.
Plus, people were keeping historical records at that time.
Yes, right? Exactly. So yeah, I wasn't there, but I can read the accounts of people who were. First-person accounts of that history. So my question to you, Ridley Scott, is, were you there? No. I don't care what you think. I don't care to see your movie. I will read that history book that quotes somebody who actually was there.
Yeah. And artistic license is one thing. I'll give you an example. I'm a big fan of the movie Deepwater Horizon, and there's a very poignant scene in the movie when they're on the rescue boats and they're looking up at the evil John Malkovich, who was, I guess, the BP guy, and they all say the prayer, the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father, right? And the survivors say that. Now, that didn't happen that evening, but it happened the morning after, where they gathered and they said it. So, okay. Yeah. That was playing a little loose. Didn't happen at night, but it's close enough.
I did say something very similar about, I can't remember if it was Darkest Hour or Dunkirk. I was doing a commentary
something like that. Yeah,
Pop's channel on that. And I did say there's a couple things that get truncated. Sometimes they take things a little bit out of order. I can be forgiving of a creative license when you are trying to, although it was also one of my critiques of, what was the one about, it starts out with Pearl Harbor and...
Midway?
Midway, yes. When I saw Midway, I'm like, I understand why they truncated it the way they did, but damn it, you should have made 3 damn movies here. There was plenty of story to tell here. It's not a good idea that you did it, but they were historically accurate with what they did. I just feel they could have done a better story if they'd have. And from things I'm hearing about this Napoleon, there's a lot of story there that they tried to squeeze into 2 hours. They should have made multiple films.
Keep in mind, with Midway, it was made by the guys that made Pearl Harbor, which I heard was a disaster for historical accuracy.
Yeah, that was terrible.
But Midway, I felt
that's another great example. Yeah. If you're going to tell the story of real people. Don't make up people and set history in the background. One of the best things about Pearl Harbor was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character. Based on a real person. Yes. They should have focused on him more. Yeah. I would have seen a whole movie about that guy.
There was an episode of Millennium. Millennium, the show about...
Wasn't there time travel involved or something with that?
That was a science fiction movie named Millennium. The show was like the sister series of The X-Files. It was about serial killers and end of the world type scenarios, like religious stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And they did one episode. It was a spoof episode. They even had the band Kiss star in the episode, but they wanted Frank Black on the set because there were murders happening on a set of a movie that was being made about him and the search for this killer, right? When he was a FBI, forensic profile or whatever. And it was all Hollywooded up, and Frank Black's getting very angry at them playing fast and loose with the stuff that happened, and he was saying, there is heroism in the facts. You don't need to make stuff up. He was getting
very annoyed. Sometimes you will find that sometimes they will fictionalize history to make it more believable, because sometimes reality is stranger than fiction.
Yes.
But that's my real problem. If you're going to bother to tell a story, tell a story. If you can't manage that, then make up something. Don't bastardize someone else's story. I've used this example with Titanic, right? You got this fictional story taking place in front of a historic backdrop, but you have a responsibility to those real people that really existed. And there is no evidence. There is no one even claiming that the first officer of the Titanic fired into a crowd and then shot himself.
Yeah.
And that man has family, descendants that are alive today.
Yeah, you don't play fast and loose with that stuff. But I don't know, Ridley Scott, though, that strikes me as a childish answer, like some guy like in a history class would say to a teacher to mouth off, like in high school or something.
And this is another example of someone who has done great work in the past, has gotten all full of himself, and now he's beyond any critique. And I'm sorry, in the absence of critique, you know, you have no checks and balances, and you just become insufferable, and there's no one there to tell you, you know, you got to rein it in. You got there's a problem. You can improve. No, he's too good for all that. Well, you know what? Here's one guy who just is not going to be seeing this movie. I won't.
Ridley Scott has been hit and miss with a lot of his movies, and I have to tell you, House of Gucci was a disaster. I think that played fast and loose with the facts too. Actually,
I'm sure it did.
That was a real people too.
If I had seen it though, I would not have known, because these are people I don't know and don't know anything about.
It was based on a book about the actual crime case that happened. This was the thing that happened. I think a hitman was hired.
Well, there's another thing. If you're making a book and you're 100% accurate to the book and it's not accurate to history, well, blame the author of the book. I did an adaptation of a book, you know.
Well, I don't know, maybe. But when it comes to history, writers should look up history in a book, talk to a historian, or go to reenactments. Yeah.
Now, yeah. I started to watch a video you sent me, someone doing a critique on the movie, and just saying it was just terrible as far as the movie goes.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, then I really have no impetus to see this.
They make him very weird, and I don't know what the real Napoleon was like, but I would figure if this man commanded legions to follow him, he had to have some respectability about him. I mean, granted, there are people that feared and hated him as well, I'm sure, at the time.
Oh, yeah. There was, you know, and that's the thing. There's some great politics to talk about there. There is great battle tactics that I did a paper in college, actually, on the Battle of Waterloo.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it is very, very interesting stuff for people that are into that kind of thing. Now, and I was having this conversation in the backdrop with Big Al last night, and that's that you know, when you do something like this, like a movie about Napoleon or whatever, there are going to be people that are going to know the details of those battles. There are people that are going to know the details of that man's history. They're going to know the details of the history of fashion for that period, okay? Those people are the ones that you would want to come see this movie. See? And because the fact is, unless you have some interest in these elements of history, most people aren't going to care about Napoleon and go see your movie. You know? I mean, heaven forbid, you know, you should want to put out something that people would want to see and will make money, right? I mean, I don't know what his motivation is for making this movie. But I said that would be like, you know, people not knowing the history of the character they're writing, not knowing the details of the fashion, not knowing the details of the battles that are being discussed in the story. That would be like doing the story of Brian's Song, not knowing anything about Gale Sayre, and not having a clue about the rules of football.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
and
I'm
just
sure
making up whatever story you want to.
I'm sure that day is coming when you're going to have sports movies that by people that don't understand sports and say it's not about that, you know.
Right, exactly.
What I thought was interesting though is Hollywood's done this before though. I think the movie The Robe. Have you ever seen that movie?
Who did that?
It's another one of these religious. I think Richard Burton's in it. One of my problems
I
with those.
probably did see it.
I think it had the Emperor Caligula as the antagonist, and of course the Christians being persecuted. But I'm thinking this is early days of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Caligula. They were a blip on Caligula's radar at that point. That was more of a Nero thing, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, Caligula's evil enough.
Yeah, he didn't care about any religions.
Yes,
to be honest,
I don't think he was paying attention to the early Christians. I think that
for darn sure he was too busy having an affair with his horse.
That I didn't know, but that explains why he let him become a senator. Anyway, the horse became a senator. Anyway, now you put that image in my head. Thank you. So let's move on.
This one took me by surprise. I think you sent this one to me, and I was a little shocked.
New Karate Kid movie to unite Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio. What?
Yeah.
The new movie from Sony Pictures, director Jonathan Entwistle and writer Rob Lieber will premiere in theaters on December 13th, 2024. Karen Rosenfeld is producing. Plot details are kept under wraps on the new movie, but Macchio will reprise his role as Daniel LaRusso, whom he played in the original Karate Kid film trilogy, starting in 1984 and brought back on Netflix's Cobra Kai series. Chan will return into the role of Mr. Hong, Kung Fu master based on Mr. Miyagi, who coached Jaden Smith's Dre Parker in the 2010 remake movie. Macchio has kept the character of Daniel going through Cobra Kai, which announced its sixth and final season earlier this year. That show, created by Josh Held, John Hurwitz, and Hayden Schlossberg, takes place several decades after the events of the original Karate Kid movies, reigniting the rivalry between now middle-aged Daniel and Johnny Lawrence, played by William Zabka. It is unclear how the sprawling story of Cobra Kai will factor into the new Karate Kid movie. Making the announcement in a video posted to YouTube, Chan and Macchio launched a global casting search for a brand new Karate Kid to lead the movie, inviting young actors to submit audition tapes to KarateKidCasting.com. Since 1984, the Karate Kid franchise has become one of Hollywood's most beloved sports sagas, spawning the Emmy-nominated Cobra Kai series and earning more than $430 million at the global box office. Macchio is repped by Untitled Entertainment, Buchwald, Hansen, Jacobson, Teller, Hoberman, Newman, Warren, Richmond, Rush, Kaller, and Gelman LLP. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Cut that down, dude. Okay. And Jill Fritzo, PR. Chan is repped by CAA and Jessica Chen. That's fewer names. And Whistle is repped by CAA, Grandview, 42, and Jackawi Tai. Is he going to be in it? Why are you bringing him up? Is Johnny Lawrence going to be in the movie? Now I'm wondering. Lieber is also repped by Verve, Fourth Wall Management, and Sloan, Offer, Weber, and Dern. So, yeah.
So, without them saying too much, because it doesn't sound like it tells us anything about what the movie's going to be about, it does seem to imply that the Danny LaRusso Karate Kid takes place in the same world as the I don't know, Jackie Chan Karate Kid film.
I need to watch that movie. I know that the premise was, I think he's a kid and his mom moves to Hong Kong, and it's a similar premise where he's the fish out of water, but this time he's the American. He's
right.
Also he's a black American too in China, and the kind of the hostility by the locals, but he befriends Mr. Han, who teaches him kung fu, not karate.
Exactly. That's why I made
it. It's not like someone says, "You're going to teach me karate. I'll teach you kung fu." Yeah.
Yeah. That's why
they didn't just call it the Kung Fu Kid, which would have made more sense.
I took my my copy of it and made a custom cover for it, the Kung Fu Kid, and because I could not reconcile that. But now it'll be interesting to see, and I could totally see it. Could you imagine? Whoever it is that Mr. Han is teaching ends up in a martial arts tournament against the kids from Cobra Kai or something like that.
It'd be funny. I wonder if he's going to show up on the final season of Cobra Kai, because weren't they going to do the international competition?
I'd forgotten about that. That's right.
They're moving on. It's not going to be the All
If
Valley.
they
Yeah.
if they don't capitalize on that, that is a huge missed opportunity. And I'll bet you you're absolutely right. That's got to be what they're doing.
Interesting.
That's got to be it. I'll bet you that this is going to be a movie launch that takes place after the last season of Cobra Kai.
Now, I wonder if it has to be self-contained, so if you didn't see Cobra Kai, you can still follow it from the original Cobra Kai.
Sure, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
If they think it through, that would be easy to do. Sure.
Well, he could still have his whatever dojo in California. Maybe a kid from there joins up with it.
Yep.
It's going to be a new Karate Kid. I mean, it doesn't have to. It'd be easy enough to follow, even if you didn't watch Cobra Kai. Even if they had some of the characters from Cobra Kai on it, it wouldn't be that weird, I think.
Yeah. Oh gosh, this is actually I'm actually getting kind of fired up about this idea. This could
I
be
hope
really,
it's
really
good. I hope they follow the goodwill they built with Cobra Kai, and they can bring even more. I mean, there's no reason this story can't keep continuing. So, I know ended already, but I don't think you have to end Karate Kid. I think you keep going. You just introduce new characters. It's Wuxia, the martial hero story. So,
right.
I did really enjoy that last season of Cobra Kai. That was a lot of fun.
I am kind of eager though to get the resolution on that.
Oh, they left it on a cliffhanger though, didn't they?
They did. We do need that last season. I
don't know. I had kind of the hots for the I call her the Dragon Lady that they brought over from Korea. The daughter of that.
She
was evil, but
she was. I can see why you call her Dragon Lady. Yeah.
Well, that's because she's like the typical the stereotype, right?
Yeah.
From Korea, not China, but
you're not wrong.
She was just. She was I don't know. She was interesting, and I liked the episode where she made what's her name punch through the what was it, the stone?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And it was just, I don't know. But yeah, now we move on to our last story of the night.
Yeah, here's the bookend for you guys. Mr. Monk's Last Case, a Monk movie. Tony Shalhoub gets back to work in Peacock. Follow-up film.
Peacock has unveiled the first trailer for Mr. Monk's Last Case, a Monk movie. Its feature follow-up to USA Network's beloved comedy series Monk, starring Tony Shalhoub as the OCD-embattled San Francisco detective Adrian Monk, one of the world's most brilliant minds in the solving of mysteries. Created, written, and executive produced by the award-winning original series creator Andy Breckman, the film debuts on the streamer December 8th. That's coming right up.
Yep.
In a Monk movie, the detective returns to solve one last very personal case involving his beloved stepdaughter, Molly, a journalist preparing for her wedding. In addition to Shalhoub, the returning cast includes Ted Levine, Traylor Howard, Jason Gray Stanford, Malora Hardin, and Hector Elizondo. The new additions to the world of the show include Caitlin McGee and James Purfoy. I didn't know Hector Elizondo was on Monk. He was?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, Latin actor. He's been in movies. Anyway, he's a good actor. Anyway, additional EPs include David Hoberman.
Oh, right. He was the psychiatrist.
Oh, excellent. I need to watch Monk. I need to catch up on it. Okay. Additional EPs include David Hoberman, Randy Zisk, who also directed, and Shalhoub. The studio is UCP, a division of Universal Studios Group. Upon its 2002 debut, Monk quickly became a staple for USA, running for 125 episodes across 8 seasons. That's a success stories.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest here. Not many TV shows get it to 8 seasons. Smallville got to 10, and that's a mystery that will always remain. But in a statement of the film, Breckman, Hoberman, and Zisk noted it's been nearly 14 years since the world has been in a fresh installment of Monk. I've seen this fresh installment of Monk. The world has changed mightily since those intervening years of Monk. 2023 reflects the changing world. This is what has you scared, right?
Yeah.
We'll see, though. The trailer looked fun, so we'll see. The trio went on to say that they're delighted to have made a movie version of Monk, and we're thrilled that one of our stars were so enthusiastic about coming back. But in coming back, we wanted to do a film that was worthy of the legacy. Mr. Monk's Last Case is a story that is powerful, emotional, funny, heartwarming, and has something to say about the human condition, and it will be both familiar and surprising. So, I don't think you have anything to worry about, but you'll be the judge when you see it. That's
Yeah, yeah, and I will see it. I mean, I can't have seen 8 seasons of the show and not see the movie. It does sound like they're not going to be doing a lot of talking about his actual last case. It sounds like this is a new case involving Trudy's daughter. So,
right.
We'll see.
So we'll see how it turns out, but keep your fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it for Geeky Geezers tonight. We will have an in remembrance next week, though.
Yeah.
But what's going on this week? Tuesday? Oh, actually,
well,
midnight.
Tomorrow night. I mean, and tonight. Well,
tomorrow.
depending on which side of the time zone you happen to be on. Tonight, in 1 hour, the other side of midnight, number 29 with Gary Kissel. Kissel, did I say that right? Of Pop Culture Minefield, Deleted Scenes channel. There's the link. Make sure you go hang out with them. A great way to end the weekend with Deleted Scenes over there. But
all right.
and he's also got this is, I swear, it's like he's trying to fit more and more into each week, because tomorrow night he's doing a mystery movie night at the Regal at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. Don't know what movie it is because he doesn't know. It's like cinema roulette. He goes in and he sees what movie they're showing that night. So he'll have a review of something for us tomorrow night.
Okay.
And then Tuesday, all of this is on Deleted Scenes. This is all Deleted Scenes all the time now, folks. Tuesday night, live from Sparkwood and 21, Twin Peaks Season 1, Episode 6, Realization Time. That's at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern.
I'm enjoying Twin Peaks. It's like putting on a warm sweater.
Isn't it? It's I'll tell you. Well, and see, I know you're originally from like the New Jersey area?
Yes.
So you've had your winter months and whatnot.
Yes.
And, but have you ever been up in the mountains? Have you ever been in like the Pacific Northwest?
I've been to Washington State. Yes, I was I was in Tacoma for a bit. Which mountain did I go to? I did go to a mountain there, so I know what it's like. Oh,
yeah, so you probably have been. If you weren't in some of the filming locations, you probably saw some of the definitely some of the same woody type areas in Mount Range.
Mount Rainier. Yep. That's where I went to. Yes.
Oh, good.
It's beautiful out there.
It really
recommend
is.
If you vacation, go see the.
I wouldn't want to live in Washington, but it's definitely worth a visit. Definitely,
it's beautiful nature out there. I'm envious of that because I'm kind of pale myself, so I can't be out in the Florida sun too long. But I feel in those areas I could probably be out there longer, especially in the fall or spring.
Absolutely.
Agent Boomer and Troy did a great job. Chat was great. Everyone take care. Have a great night. Well, thank you, D.D. Myers.
Thank you so much.
Got a compliment from Leia Plus Size here. Thank you for stopping by on the stream again, Leia. And,
you guys are awesome. Thanks for being here.
Everybody else.
Thursday night, Netters Network.
Yes,
Thursday Things with guest host Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies. That's 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
Does he talk about groovy movies?
He will be talking about some groovy movies. We'll be talking about his channel. He is a great rewatch channel. He does the Cosme thing like we do. So you definitely want to come find out about his channel and make sure you're subscribed to him.
Yes, definitely.
That is Thursday on Netters Network. And then after that, get back over to Deleted Scenes. It's Deleted Scenes every night, where he brings us the weekend update at 10:45 Central, 11:45 Eastern, and he'll just let you know what he's got going on going into the weekend.
Okay, does this guy ever sleep?
I don't know. I have no idea how he does it, and he works a full-time job too. The guy's crazy. I don't know. And then he's in here. Blue wrenching and saying, "Oh, I gotta get something to eat. I gotta be away from the keyboard." And it's like, dude, are you ever away from the keyboard, for crying out loud?
Exactly. We had some
I
great
only
leaders.
do one show. Well, I mean, I guest on a couple people's channels, but I only do my one show a week, which is Friday. Every Friday. This Friday, my special
Big one.
guest. Huh?
It's a big one.
Exactly. It's a big one. Dr. Marissa Pei, PhD, at 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Last Call. She bills herself as the Asian Oprah. I feel that's kind of reductive because I think she's far more positive and
Yes.
far more interesting to me than Oprah ever was.
Ditto.
Well, yeah, but yeah, it'll be a good time. We'll talk about her. We'll talk about her book. We'll talk about her radio show out on the left coast every weekday morning, which also simulcasts on YouTube, so you will be able to subscribe to her and catch her in the mornings while you work or whatever you do during the day. That
Be on
will
our best behavior.
Yeah. Yes, everybody, please be on your best behavior.
Professional we have on this Friday. I'll be getting schlossed and saying, "You're an effing fraud."
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be the one getting schlossed. It's like, Boomer, you're not. I figured you'd be the sober one tonight. I could have some libations. I'm just kidding.
There you go.
Which
Anyway,
he's not allowed to drink.
Yeah, right.
you can say it's Saturday night.
Saturday, Big Al presents Films with Friends.
Movie.
The Lion in Winter from 1968.
Good one.
This is a different kind of Christmas movie.
It is kind of a Christmas movie. It's historically,
it is.
yeah. Good cast in that one.
Oh, you will enjoy it. I know I saw this on like what do you call it? Like Family Classics back when I was a kid.
It's Richard the Lionhearted, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Catherine of Aragon, is that right? Who's in that?
Peter O'Toole and Katharine Hepburn.
Yes.
Good movie. Good
And
movie.
it's funny how each of them have their preferred sons they want to take the crown, but nobody wants the middle son, which I thought was kind of odd because he seemed like a better choice than the youngest, I thought. But
There you go.
But you know, Palace Intrigue, you'll enjoy it. It's a good little movie. I watched it in I think a history class once, I think, or a literature class, one or the other. But yeah.
And now we're getting too far into the future to have the exact details, but deleted scenes will be on Jedi Bill's Western Cinema Presents every Sunday, including this Sunday, I assume. 3 Central, 4 Eastern, and then
Can I predict the Western they're going to do?
Sure. Which one?
Rustler's Rhapsody.
Never heard of it. Okay.
You've never heard of Rustler's Rhapsody? It's another Western comedy.
Okay.
Here's a funny joke in it about lawyers.
Yeah, it's easy to make funny jokes about lawyers.
I know this one's very good though. It's okay.
And then, of course, unscripted with deleted scenes. Topic to be decided. 7 Central, 8 Eastern. It's the 1 hour lead into Geeky Geezers. We already know we'll be doing it in remembrance of Marty Krofft.
And probably a good old days. On
Probably a
those
good
great
old day
shows.
about Sid and Marty Krofft and the various shows that I grew up with.
Right.
And how they influenced me. I'm saying me because I'm thinking you might have been a little young.
A little young,
Early
but I did
70s.
catch some of these things in repeats. I'll give my limited experience with them, but I do remember
enough.
Land of the Lost and trying to catch it when I saw it because I thought it was really cool. It was like probably because it had a like kind of a I don't want to say it was like Planet of the Apes, but it was like this forgotten world and these humans trying to survive, and it's just I like that. And Disney, if you play your cards right, you can have a gold mine with the Planet of the Apes franchise if you know what you're doing.
That's
Make
true.
some of that money back you've been losing.
That is true.
Unless you just want to just mess that up like
They are gonna if they don't get bought up by Nelson Peltz, they are almost certainly gonna end up going out of business.
Yeah.
It's just or they just might become an exclusively Chinese company.
Yeah. We don't want that.
That's a whole other topic for another night.
Of course, I will say this: in Chinese movies, there's a lot of respect toward the father in a lot of those movies. The father's role in the family.
Well, maybe then it would be a good thing for Disney.
All right, but I'm trying to think what else is going on this week. I guess that's it. But like I said, I'll be on with you guys on Tuesday, and should be fun. And I have to say, the brother of Mr. Horn, maybe we'll bring this on the stream, he missed his calling in life. He should have become a chef.
Okay, there
Am
you
I
go.
wrong? He loves food, right?
Yeah,
He talks about what he wants to do with these. I think he should have been a professional chef. That might have made him happy. What do you think?
I think you're onto something there.
Okay. All right. I'll catch y'all later. You have a good week. And I guess by next week, we'll know how Wish finally did, box office wise. Disney's Wish. All right. Y'all have a good night. Bye-bye.
Take care.